What's up, Mr. Eric Attinger?
What's up, guys?
Where are you at tonight?
We are at Black&White Studios, if I'm correct, Queen Street, Northumberland. We're going to be talking about some awesome stuff. I like to talk about God, math, science, aliens. That's the big thing now that's been popping off. So I think we're going to talk about a lot of that with the guys, answer questions, and then see what we have going forward. There's so many topics we want to cover. Not going to be able to cover all of them, but we're going to cover as much as we can. Whatever we don't get to, we'll do more for you guys, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So looking forward to it, guys.
Welcome to Black&White, InBlack&White, the podcast. Aaron and Brett here, the hosts, with a special guest today, Eric Attinger.
What's up,
How you doing, Eric?
Pretty good. Nice to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you, man.
So I met Eric through a friend of mine and found out he was quite knowledgeable in multiple things. He's blown my mind, and well, I was drinking a beer at a wedding, I think, once.
We had deep talks, I think, Aaron. Real deep talks.
Couldn't get away. But yeah, so, I mean, if you want to, I mean, just, we really want to know about UFOs in this area, the phenomena, galaxies, numbers, I mean, anything that makes sense in that realm. Yeah, so.
Sure.
I mean, if you want to hit it and just dive right in,
yeah.
I mean, where do you normally start? I mean,
so,
first off,
go ahead.
do you believe in UFOs?
Yeah, so that's actually a great starting point. So, but here's the interesting thing. So words, I believe, are very symbolic. They're symbols. So when I say, for example, I say the word car, you three all had a different image in your mind. It might have been the same kind of car, but it's different colors, different concepts. So now I have to completely define more and more. What if I'm talking about a blue car, I'm talking about a blue Chevrolet, and now I'm manipulating your symbols. But there's so much words that go into things and symbols and different words and names for things. So when I say I believe in UFOs, I believe in, I don't know if, I think there could be, saucer-looking discs that they look like. It could be anything, but I see it as, it could be physical, it might not be physical, but these things exist. And when people say they believe in aliens, I say there's very different names for them. I think more people believe in aliens than what they think. And people have described them and narrowed them down to being, little green people on other planets. And I myself, based on what I know in the math and the science of the universe, and like I was saying before, I'm a big person of the Bible and ancient scripture and how it all plays into reality. And what I believe on everything is that we are not going to find these, what we call aliens. I call them, angels or spirit beings. There's principalities, there's thrones, there's dominions. But these are all higher beings that live in higher dimensions. And what we are experiencing is, I believe that we live, it could be 10, 11, more than that dimensions, but we live in 4. We live in space, the 3 spatial dimensions, and then time.
So you're saying there's 4 different dimensions?
Yeah, yes, good point. So there's 4 different dimensions that we're experiencing, and we are very familiar with 3 dimensions. It's length, width, and height. It's like a box. We're living in 3 dimensions, but the 4th dimension is time, and time is a temporal dimension, different than spiritual or spatial dimensions. So for example, we have a desk sitting right here, and this desk is in 3 dimensions. We are seeing it in 3 dimensions, but we really know it's moving in 4 dimensions as well, and that's time. So when we all leave here tonight, this is still be here. It's still 3 dimensions, but it has traveled in the 4th dimension from us being around it to something not being around it. So what we can't perceive, we perceive time as linear, like a past, a present, and a future. Like we think the past is already done. We think the future is different, hasn't happened yet. But from my understanding of how time works, it's like this desk. We didn't start with this desk and 3D print it from the back to the front. When that desk came in, it came in the beginning, the middle, and the end all at once. So there is no linear time. So when we perceive these things, it's actually another dimension. But there's more than 4 dimensions, and that's where these aliens, or what I call, like I said, angels, thrones, dominions, these spirit beings, are there. And if we look for planets, I don't think we'll find them. That's my opinion. But you guys might have differing opinions.
Yeah. I mean, I believe in aliens. I always thought that there was another dimension, like, even with death. Like, I always believed that when you're a ghost, you're actually in our realm, but you're just you're a little bit above the ground that we actually live on, just in a separate dimension. So
yeah, I believe the like anything paranormal you see that pops into it, whether it's poltergeist activity that some people call it, or ghost activity, or I say spirits again. I say spirits are dipping down our dimensions. That's exactly right. It's everything coming from a higher existence. And here's the difference: I believe everything in the higher dimension has access to our lower dimensions, but we don't have. It's a one-way. They have a two-way street. They can go back and forth. We can only be here until the end. But I believe that our true reality is in the higher dimensions.
Now, do you think that's for like eternity, or is it just a knowledge-based thing? Like we don't have the knowledge to.
So I believe it's So I believe that it's hard to say. So there's also the higher dimensions are also kind of stuck in this time, which is weird. So these aliens or angels, like I call them, they're coming down from above the desk. You could say if this is the dimensions, and they're dropping down into our dimensions and coming back out. But then outside of that is what I call God, or some people call the designer. Some atheists refuse to believe there is, but I think because of the way we're simulated, the computer and the mathematics adds up, it all makes sense. But then God is in outside of, he inhabits and he's through all these things, existing all through these things, but he's also outside in another reality that kind of coincides with ours. It's a dimension that we could never get to because we are all creations, and I call us like mini gods or lesser gods is what the scriptures say. And it's like we have creative free-willed power too, and we're living, and we are that's why I think the Bible says made in the image of God. We are mini creators. That's why we love to create art, we love to create music, we love to do this because God did it, and we are mini gods. We are children of God that have gone a different path, and are a lot. We would all fail the test of time, I think. But he also intercedes and all that. But that's where the higher dimensions are actually in.
See, I get twisted where
go ahead.
I believe, in my mind, God would be an alien. So if I
who is your God?
So God, he's known by the name Yahweh or Jehovah. He's the God of the Bible, the God of Israel that I believe in. So that's a cool thing you said that. So people told me Jesus is an alien. I said yes, he is. Any being not from this in our existence that drops down is an alien. So in theory, God would be an alien. Jesus would be an alien. These angels would be aliens. So again, I think we're hung up on words. When people say aliens, that's why people wouldn't take us seriously. Most people would say, "Oh, the green guys on Mars. No, we're never gonna you guys are crazy." And it's like
the stereotypical
you have defined it in such a narrow way that you're not open. And I'll tell other Christian believers that I believe in aliens, and they look at me sideways, and I say it's all in Scripture. Genesis 6 says the sons of God drop down into the lower dimensions essentially, and we're with women, and that's where the hybrid Nephilim come from. They're hybrid, half humans, half gods, half spirit beings. And
so what? That's like the same time like the devil was kind of formed because he came down and he was part of the whole angels that wanted to deter from God's word and impregnate.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, what it was, if you follow Scripture, is it was a strategy of the highest enemy. A lot of people call him Satan, the devil, whatever name you want to give him, but it's the highest spirit that is opposing that. Just pretty much gone their own way, which is what we all do. We go our own way, want to become our own gods, and we want to make our own rules, and it sometimes does not match up with the universal law, and that's why we all have bad stuff happen in our lives. It's because we're not, we are making our own laws, and we have broken from the way that nature is. But yes, he would be involved in that. So that was a strategy essentially to basically save. If God was really going to save humanity and give humanity a chance, he was going to mingle with and said, well, if you save humans, you have to save us because we're all the same blood now. But yeah, if you go into that's
how I looked at it. Like if I was an alien race and I made humans, and I was like, man, they're really messing up down there. Like. One of us needs to suit up like them and go down there and try to spread a word to make them go a certain way without really showing them who we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so even if you look at the Bible again, you look at all these times angels came down. It even says that we could all entertain angels unaware, which means they take human form. And all the time when they meet up with people, they're in human form. But we know they're not humans and they are higher beings.
So what do you think would happen if one day every religion out there realized that they were actually worshiping the same alien race that made us to begin with?
So I believe, the end of time says that will happen in a way. There will be a unified religion, but I believe it'll be a false one, because I think so basically what's going to happen is somebody's going to swoop in. It's the idea, some people call him the Antichrist, some people, call him the son of perdition or whatever, but he basically wants to be, we all have these urges because we're many gods, lesser gods. And when I say God, people think of just the one God creator. I believe there is a creator God, but I think there's lesser gods. That's where the many gods religions come from, and the Romans and the Greeks. And like Hercules would have been a Nephilim that we're talking about here. Would have been a half, if you want to call him alien or angel, and a half human being who had super strength, super knowledge, super wisdom because they're so higher than us. And it just got wild, and basically it's been a war since then. But I think in the end there will be the dark forces, the dark energies, the dark spirits, however you want to put it, will create a new one world religion, get all the religions in the world at that time to agree to worship and focus in on him, and that he was the true creator of humanity, the aliens. And I believe they will actually go the alien tactic route. I think they'll expose themselves, but they're going to convince people of a different reality of what's happened. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept of the rapture in the Bible, but it is very similar to an alien abduction. Basically, this concept is at the end of time, somebody like me who is sealed with the Spirit of God God will remove himself from this creation and essentially abduct me from, and it's happened. Enoch, Elijah, all these people have disappeared from existence and entered the higher dimensions. They disappeared forever. It says Enoch never died. He was taken by God. And it says in the end, this will happen where all these people will be gone. Then they're going to claim that it was an alien abduction, that God did not take us, that Jesus Christ did not take us, but that they took us to raise the vibration of this universe.
And that's like Dr. Richard Greer, right?
Yeah, I've never listened to all of his stuff, but I think he has certain concepts of this stuff, yes.
Yeah, I think he's trying to say that there's like a false space invasion that'll happen.
No, that's 100% going to happen. I will be abducted. I will be.
I feel like I am too.
So
I feel like if anyone is, it's
so
this man.
So it's going to happen. And here's the wild thing: it could happen. Like all the things have been fulfilled in prophecy, and prophecy makes again so much sense. So we have to realize people say, "Oh, you can't know the future." What I just described as time. If you were God, you could be outside of this and say, "This is what happens then. This is what happens today. Tomorrow this happens," and they see everything that can happen. So, if I wanted you guys to take me seriously, and I had this power, I would tell you something that's going to happen in a week or a month that I could have never known otherwise. And when that happens, I guarantee you guys will listen to almost everything I say after that.
Yeah.
Because you'll know there's no way, there's some other thing he's tapping into.
Yep.
So I believe all these things happen. So in the end, it says all the things that have been fulfilled in Scripture, that I could disappear at any second. I could be in this podcast and go, and you'd be like, he just abducted by aliens on our podcast. The government will probably want your podcast and want to broadcast this. Mm-hmm. They want to broadcast it, and it's called the Great Deception. I believe this is what the Great Deception is, that the Scriptures talk about in the end, that they're going to say that they took us, it wasn't God, and that they're going to get anybody left.
Which started with like Project Blue Book, all that.
Yeah,
okay.
And Majestic 12, I think, as well. But yeah, this has been going since so if it's really wild if you follow Scripture again. So Israel became a nation in 1948. 1947 was all the Roswell stuff. There was also things called Foo Fighters. Have you guys ever heard of the Foo Fighters, who were like the German UFOs?
Yeah, I did.
The German UFOs they talk about. Well, Hitler. Apparently.
Not the band, right?
But not the band. No, but the band I believe got there. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, not the band. We're talking about real life 1940s Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And they were essentially these pilots that were flying around in saucers or they thought they were spacecraft. And Hitler took pretty control of the world pretty fast, and he was into the occult. If you look into this, he worked with the dark spirits. He loved it.
Yeah, I heard Hitler was into the dark arts.
They accelerated so fast, gained control so fast, and what was their one thing? To wipe out Israel. It fails, it happens, but all this interdimensional stuff's happening that it's been picking up, and since 1947, alien activity is increasing and increasing because the enemy, whatever you want to call him, the devil or Satan or whatever the leader of the dark forces, whatever name you want to give him, he also knows these things are happening, these prophecies are coming to be. He doesn't know when they are, but now he has to lay the groundwork of how is he going to deceive everybody else when he loses. That's a big loss.
And that's supposed to be at the time of the rapture, right? Where
yes.
All
the
one
believers
man's
of God.
going to come.
Yeah, so it would be, Jesus Christ essentially would never actually come down, but it says he comes in the clouds. Essentially, it's like the dimensions opening up, that people see aliens, these kind of things. It'll be opened up. It'll be in the twinkling of an eye, it says, which means faster than anything we could perceive. Our cameras may not even be able to catch it. And I think that's a lot to do with quantum mechanics and the way of sliding through higher dimensions at lower, smaller levels. But essentially, I would be disappeared. I would be transported, I believe, to another higher dimension, and then eventually would re-enter the future 7 years or more later. I'll come back, but in a perfect body and in perfect form that we were designed to be in, which is what the garden talks about, that we all went awry, and that's where all these curses are coming from.
So what has happened to the people that are left?
So here's the wild thing. Some people call it the tribulation. So you got a little taste of this COVID. This is what's called a birth pain, I believe. I did a video on this on Facebook. But this is just, we're getting to see, so my wife had a baby. You said you had children, so when the woman...
My wife had a baby, it's a boy.
But we don't even have to know a lot about baby having as guys to know that, the women are like, I can tell it's coming. There's the painful, they call them contractions.
Yeah.
These are this COVID's kind of stuff, I believe, is not the end-all be-all end of the world, but it very well could be a large and strong contraction saying the big stuff is about to happen, the tribulation's coming, and then, so when the people that are left that never followed God, never accepted this reality that Jesus Christ is, King of all, and that he's been trying to reverse the code that we have screwed up, we're now sixes. I think of it as nines. I'll show you math sometimes, but I think of it as we've become corrupted 6 files now. We're corrupted files, and we need to be uncorrupted to live in a perfect world. It's like burning up. It's like going into the sun. You'll burn up. So if you don't have this, now you have 7 years if you've never heard it. So I believe that anybody who's heard it now has the chance to accept it and follow through it and be one of the raptured or the abducted. But afterwards, the people who have never heard it will have 7 years to live during this. The first 3.5 years will be peaceful. Then this leader who does this one world religion will break all the rules, put anybody left into this awful, one world government. It's the one world government. It's the new world order, and he will take control. You'll have to buy, sell anything he says. He'll be in, and it will be absolute hell on earth, really. And those people will have to wake up and live it out to make it into the second coming, as we call it, when we all reappear with Christ in our perfect bodies to restore the earth. But anybody who has heard this and doesn't know, they will be deceived, like I'm talking about. They will believe that I was abducted by aliens, by them. I'm on another planet somewhere else, and whatever else, I don't know what they're going to tell them.
So that's like saying aliens are faked, and they're not real then.
So they're...
Because I would believe you're abducted by aliens.
Yes, exactly. So in a way, I was abducted, and that's what they'll be completely true. They'll have all the evidence. There'll be people that will say, I was next to somebody and they vanished. That is an abduction. So it will be 100% true it's an abduction. But what the lie is going to be is that they did the abducting, or I was abducted with these groups of people by other aliens, and there's some kind of war, and they're going to basically twist the truth in a way.
Yeah.
Which if you believe in the New World Order like I do, that this stuff is gearing up now. We're starting to see more and more of this, and that they want the power. This is all political wars in the spirit realm, manifested in our physical reality. But I believe that they are going to lie about. They're going to tell you I was abducted, and I was abducted, and I will be gone with Christ with all the other Christians. But they will tell you that it happened for another reason, so they can get control of you guys or whoever's left. You guys, you know what I mean? Whoever it is, whoever's left, I'm saying, is they
basically
will be deceived.
create a false perception.
Yes, they'll have a false perception, and it'll be so strong. You guys will know. There'll be video footage maybe of us disappearing. It's going to be so strong, but then people are going to believe every word, or be afraid not to believe every word, because then they gain full power. And the new world order, the new one world government is coming. It's on its way. I believe it's been being built since the 40s, maybe longer, since 1947, 48. You see a lot of war zone, but I believe that kind of stuff's coming. So that's what I believe. The rapture, alien abductions coexist there. So.
Okay.
It's a lot. There's a lot to take in there.
Yeah, there is a lot.
So,
to bring it back though to like the whole alien things. I mean, locally, we live pretty local to each other, Northumberland, Sunbury. Have you experienced anything around here that you just don't understand? I mean, I personally, for the past 15 years, have experienced lights in the sky around here I don't understand. I mean, we actually just experienced some things down at the river the other night. We were down at the pier, and we saw this unexplainable orange orb that went through the sky, and not even 3 minutes later,
I'll tell you what, this
a Black Hawk, all redded out, red lights, red on red, flying low to the river. No, it was flying up the river in the same direction as the light that we saw, and we were like, wait a minute. And I've known, like, ever since the experiences I've had 10 years ago, there's always been military choppers flying up through this Y here in the river. So I think it's like you know the story of the Todd Cease?
That's one of the most popular ones, yeah.
So when I was 15, I actually, right after my mother passed away, to get my mind off of things, I joined White Deer Search and Rescue. And like one of my first major things was this Todd Cease thing. So I was actually on the search and rescue.
Firsthand there, saw the weird...
No, I wasn't. We weren't the first team there. We were like the third team there. We had a dog team.
But were you still in the area like where they found a boot
I saw
in a
the
tree?
4-wheeler. I saw the clothes that were scattered behind, each one after another. They tried to say that this guy overdosed on cocaine.
I remember that. Yeah.
And what's crazy is where they found his body prior days before was searched clear. You know what I mean? Right. So how he showed up was just very odd days later. You know what I mean? Sure. So, but yeah, if you haven't heard, that's the Todd Cease case. That's actually a local person here who I believe was abducted, and then I think they took his body.
Did they close that, or is
months.
It's still open, right? Or did they close it?
Like many cases around here, they're cold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think it's closed because they said it was cocaine, but cocaine overdose. But they apparently took his body for like 6 months. His family didn't get.
That was like 18 years ago. It was like August 2002, right?
Yeah, it was right after
early
9/11. Yeah, so that's a crazy thing that happened here. And I was actually just looking on MUFON. I'd love to get a hold of one of these family members, but up on Ridge, experienced a whole family. Was like kind of like Thanksgiving dinner. They were all there. They went out. One of the guys went out back for a cigarette. Looked up, and there was this craft that they're saying is like bigger than the house, just hovering, no sound, you know. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We're trying to get some stories from the people locally around here to actually bring this out a little bit and see what people believe. And
I definitely believe that stuff's happening.
I mean, Brett, what about you? I mean, you are a believer.
I mean, I've had some crazy experiences. the only one that you know, that left me shook was the time I went to the shore. I went to Wildwood, and me and my buddy went out to the beach, like 3 in the morning probably.
This story's crazy.
Yeah, and
It's gonna blow your on a quantum
sitting there
physics
and
level. I need your
it's-
answer.
Yes.
on
have
this.
you ever been to the beach like at night?
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually one of my favorite
it's
things to do
beautiful.
at night,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Gorgeous
so
movies
beautiful.
up
It's like
there.
you can see everything.
Yep.
It's dark. Like the only thing you hear is the water.
Right.
But we're sitting there, and I'm talking to my buddy, and out of nowhere I just see orange rod just shoot straight up into the sky, and we're like, you know, we're tapping each other like, dude, no way, and it just turns sideways, just in an instance, just gone. Like I didn't even see it take
Streak
off. It was
off or
just
anything?
Hold on,
Just
that's not all of
vanished?
it
it was a
yet.
beam of light, disappeared. So went back to the room. Slept probably for like 2 hours. Got ready to leave. We went to the fudge shop actually before we left. So we're walking around the fudge shop, and it's crazy talking about this, dude. It gives me goosebumps like every
bet.
time, yeah. And so we're sitting there, you know, in the fudge shop getting fudge, and I hear this horn, and it was just like a
No, before he says this, paint a picture. Like you're in a fudge shop. There's multiple couples, people buying
this-
things.
Right.
yeah,
It is
it's
a
it's
busy
a normal
shop on
Right,
the boardwalk.
And I
A bunch of people
completely
there.
forgot
yeah,
about
so you
the
got to get at least 12
That was, like,
different
out of your
people
mind,
in here,
right?
employees
Yeah.
and everything.
yeah, you know, and completely sober by the way, I must add.
So
Fully
yeah,
sober.
you weren't seeing anything that
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
there.
no. Yeah, I wasn't even smoking cigarettes at the time. And so I hear this horn, which is a weird story because my buddy didn't hear the horn that I was with. Only I heard this horn. And it's like time froze. Everyone around me,
I've heard of this.
the people in the fudge
Him
shop,
and his
really,
friend together.
that's awesome. People in the fudge shop working, people that were walking around getting fudge, just frozen in time for like 10 seconds. But me and him can walk around, and I'm looking around like this is a joke, right? Like,
Like flash mob.
Yeah,
it was
Did
like
you
flash
bug
mob
out,
or
or
I mean, I thought it was it didn't sink in. I thought it was a real joke. Like I was,
Right.
you know, like
In
all
the
right.
city.
like on a prank
yeah,
show,
yeah.
like they were doing
Yeah,
a TV
yeah.
show, and everybody had to like freeze or
Yeah.
something.
So, but the weirdest part is when I look outside and everyone outside is frozen, that I can see
That's when you
in the
knew.
window, people with strollers just in mid stride, and then I hear the horn again probably after 10, 15 seconds, and everyone goes back to normal.
Was the horn like in the shop or in?
It
you could
sounded-
tell if it
Was it
was
in your mi-
outside.
like-
or
it
in
sounded
your
like it
head.
was in my mind.
Like it was almost wow.
That's
And how
crazy.
long did it? How long were like the people frozen there for? Like how long do you think that lasted?
In my mind, I feel like it could have been God knows how long.
Right. Reality wise, what
To
did it feel
me,
like?
in that time, it felt like 15 seconds.
Now, did you have what's called lost time after that? Did you go out there after that 15 seconds and it was like an hour into the future, or was it? Did time pick up right where it was at?
I didn't notice. I
Okay.
didn't notice it at all.
Okay.
But yeah, no,
So it was
I'm
like an under a
I'm mad at
minute type
myself
thing.
now because I wish I would. At the time, I wasn't this
Well,
woke.
it's hard to. Yeah,
I wasn't.
that was
You know,
right, and it's hard to even
Yeah.
comprehend what.
That
Even
was
if you're
my
aware, It's hard
first-
to comprehend what had
Yeah,
happened.
that was my first time. I was probably like 15. Like I had no clue what was going on.
Right.
Like now, if that happened to me now, what time is it? You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Like,
right.
I'd be on top of it.
Sure.
Or you
but
would have
yeah.
recorded it with your phone.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but
phone might not even work.
we
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
even buy fudge. We just left.
I'd probably leave after that. I'd be disinterested in fudge
because
real
I
quick.
I went up to the people behind the thing and I was like, what happened? And they're like, what do you mean what happened? And I was just like, all right, like this is
So have you
this is
heard of any
freaking me
stories?
out.
I've heard
There's
of
an actual-
yeah. So there was this thread I follow. It's called Glitch in the Matrix on Reddit. It's a subreddit called Glitch in the Matrix, and I like to follow these things. I like to see what people say because I believe that I believe in strange things in these realities. But so a lot of time that people talk about these things is they have what's called lost time. But the difference between them is like it feels like they went down to like walk down the block, to, like walk their dog, and they came back. And it was like 3 hours later, and
Yeah.
people are like, where have you been? You haven't answered us, and it had only been like 2 minutes.
Mhm.
So that's lost time. So I wasn't sure if that played a part in it. But then there's this other glitch that happened to somebody online that really creeped me out. They were at a McDonald's drive-through, and they noticed all of a sudden the cars weren't moving, and like things just got kind of weird. And they looked over, and it freaks me out even thinking about, because I don't think they would say this if they didn't believe it. They looked around, and apparently all the people were like leaning out of their cars dead, like a shooter just shot them all. So
Oh
the
my
person
goodness.
bugged out, like what had happened or whatever.
Yeah.
They got out of their car, they kind of freaked out, and they didn't know what to do. I don't know if they got back in the car. You can find it online. I forget exactly how it went.
Mhm.
But basically, almost time froze, and then things went back to normal, and it never happened. Almost like she thought she saw, like a parallel universe, which I believe in the future, anything is possible moving in the forward. I think what's written in our past is written in our past, but there's a chance, like, I know time's weird, man.
So
And-
listen, I had an experience
Yeah.
growing up. Me and a friend actually, there's this road in Bald Eagle State Forest, and there's only one way in and one way out. And when you're going a certain way, there's one turn, and it can take you onto Interstate 80.
Yep.
Right? So I've driven this thing multiple, probably 30, 40 times as a 16, 17-year-old. And we're out driving, and we get to the point where 80 overpasses, and we keep going. And mine, we're young, we're out smoking, you know,
Right.
doing our thing. We're on a burn run, you know, up through the woods. And all of a sudden, to me, which was like an hour in time driving, we came back to the same 80 overpass on the right-hand side. Now when you're driving, it's like tunnel vision, so it's just the same straight
Right,
road
over
for
and
a
over.
while, you know what I mean? So after that, I actually had a weird mark that showed up on me, right? So what
I've heard
this
of this stuff,
symbol, what does
It
that
looks like
represent?
it looks like the piece, part of the half of the peace sign.
does
with the
look
circle
like-
around like.
Yeah. So we were actually researching this the other night. It's actually
There's history to this, right? Yeah, the symbol.
this actually means
Yeah.
God in a certain
Whoa.
form, right? So I'm going to show you this. So if you see this
I believe
symbol
it.
right here, it's like a Y.
Oh, yeah, I
or a
see
peace
that.
sign. So after that happened, I don't know if you believe in Orion's belt, the
There's a lot
pyramids.
of
I got
McDonald's
3
pictures.
dots, right,
Oh, right.
that popped up on me. So I started thinking, this is really weird,
Right.
right? Looking it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
And you have a mark on you there that appeared all of a sudden.
Of the United States. So I have a birthmark, which
That's
is like the United
bizarre.
States. Yeah. So my whole life, I've been really geeked out because there was 45 minutes of time
That-
when we were driving that
You had lost time.
I don't remember. It was like, you know, when you're driving and you drive for an hour,
Yeah,
and
it's
you're like,
called
I don't.
driver's
You're like, I
amnesia.
don't even remember driving.
Driving here, I've been in the car 10 minutes. Driver's amnesia is a real thing.
Yeah, like you forget that you were driving, and
Yep.
just the weird fact was, I had a friend who him and his wife went up on the same place.
Yeah,
And
so try Reddit.
they actually experienced where they were driving on the same straight road, and they saw these huge beam lights, and what they thought it was like an old Bronco with the big lights on top. You know, remember the old bulb
Oh,
ones
yeah,
for
yeah.
off road? This thing turns, and there's no turns up there except that 80 overpass.
Right.
They get up there and they see this triangle-shaped craft with these white lights in the center, and he said his truck like stuttered and stopped and shut off.
Uh huh.
His wife's freaking out.
Usually power stuff.
They're
doesn't work.
watching this craft try to restart somewhere in the woods in the middle of Bald Eagle State Forest. You know what I mean? So ever since I heard that story, which I might have to get him in here for,
That'd be great.
it really made me think that what I experienced up there was maybe a time warp,
Yeah.
you know, or something like.
So yeah, if you believe, so the aliens concept, but again, I believe a spirit being same deal. But there's talk of they use, you know, anti-gravity technology or the way they traverse the universe. So like, you know, the light speed is the cosmic speed limit. You can't go faster than that in the universe. The speed of light is the fastest speed you can move physically. But then there's this thing called quantum entanglement, where particles can communicate faster than the speed of light, which shouldn't be possible, meaning that distance and time is somewhat of an illusion. But we could not get to, like, for example, say there was a galaxy we found, and it's like 150,000 light years away. It should take us 150,000 years going the fastest speed of light, which we couldn't even travel without
See,
burning
I
out.
just read where they shot up. Is it the Hubble that's still up there, or there's a new one up
Might
there,
be-
right?
I'm not sure.
There's a new one up there, but they shot it out there and tried to take a picture, but the galaxies were going away from them.
Yeah.
And they were trying to say that maybe the speed of these things would have to
It's
be
a-
moving faster than the speed of light for us to be able to see it, which means there's a possibility of warp time.
Yes, so I would believe that's more red light shift. So it is expanding. What's happening is the galaxies are expanding faster and faster each and every day with, it's called dark energy. So this dark energy is driving it, but light speed, I believe, is still faster. But what you're thinking of and what you may have be experiencing is this anti-gravity, any kind of anti-gravity technology. So gravity, if you know something about speed of light, gravity slows it down. That's why black holes are black, because light can't escape it. Gravity is so strong at that point that light can't even escape it. When you get to a black hole and you look at the light around it, it is like slow motion. Light is moving, but
Yeah,
light
Hawking,
should be moving.
he proved that it can only be seen on the horizon.
On
right?
the
It's not
event
actually in
horizon,
the-
correct.
yeah.
But what's happening there is that if you and I, like right now it's happening. So if we could see a black hole right now in our time, we would see things, and it might take a minute there. If we were around the black hole right now having this conversation, and we were in these bubbles, but we were living in that time, because time is relative. That's what Einstein said. If we were near a black hole, it could be this 1 hour could have been 100 million years on Earth, which is happening right now based on gravity pulls. So if we used gravity as a technology, which they believe some of these alien crafts or spirits are doing, is they are stretching and warping space-time around us with gravity, almost like I call it gravity machines. And what's happening is they're slowing. You can slow down or speed up time. The lesser gravity, faster time moves. The more gravity, more it slows down. The faster you go to the speed of light, time moves faster around you. The slower you go, the longer it lasts. So if we traveled at the speed of light now, like to Andromeda, it's like 4.5 light years away, and came back at light speed, it should be 9 years to us. Or it would be 9 years to everybody else.
Yeah. So we'd be 9 years older, and they would stay the same age.
What would happen is they would say that we left at light speed, got to Andromeda, and came back, and it was 9 years to them. But we'll have to look at the math and do the math, but I want to say it's something like 83 days. We'd say we were gone for 83 days, which is essentially less than 3 months.
We
would both be right.
We would say they were gone for 83 days.
We would say they were gone for 83
But
days.
to
We
them,
we would say we
years.
haven't been to the Earth for like 83 days. And they'd say, no, you guys have been gone for 9 years.
So to us, it was 9 years.
Yeah, and that's called the theory of relativity. And what that means is basically relative to. So we on Earth are experiencing a time frame that if you were out in somewhere else on a planet that had different gravity, time would move slower or faster if the gravities are different than Earth. So basically, somebody, again, let's say they're on a planet with that same kind of gravity force, and they say, it's been 83 days for us. And it's like, no, it's 9 years for us. We're both correct, because from their frame of reference, it's only been 83 days. But from our frame of reference, it's been 9 years.
So in essence, they would have traveled to another dimension.
So
in a way.
They
would have.
It's really just actually gravity. We don't really completely understand gravity.
Wait a minute,
so gravity will slow time down. So if they're using gravity technology, they're messing with time.
If they were 9 years behind, they'd be coming back to you from the past?
So depending on, that's the trippy thing. So so if they came back from 9 years, if they came back, like say we were on Earth 9 years, and they're like, we were like, you're back. They would look. So for example, let's think of this. Say that we put a baby on that ship that went to Andromeda and back.
Yeah.
That baby should be a 9-year-old child to us. That baby will only be 3 months old when we pull them out of the ship. And that is real science. That has been proven in a lab.
Yeah.
That if we took a baby and shot a baby, I know it's a terrible example, but it's the best way to understand, because we say 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, it's like, well, it's kind of hard to tell the difference.
Stop abortion, start capsules.
That's right. Send your babies to space for, no, just kidding, I love babies.
Yes, we all do.
But if we send a baby at the speed of light in a machine that would not harm them, because speed of light would kill us, but if we send a machine that we figure out that we can send at the speed of light that won't harm the baby, and we send it to Andromeda and back, like I said, it's like 4.5 years there, one way light speed, and 4.5 back, that's 9 years. We would say, okay, awesome, it's been 9 years, let's get this 9-year-old boy, ask him what space is about. He's going to go, goo goo gaga, and we're like, what? And that is really what would happen scientifically.
That's insane.
Because time is relative, and that's what the theory of relativity, E equals mc squared is. Energy equals mass times the constant squared, which is the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's energy, so what energy is just mass times the speed of light squared is what it is. But by using this mathematics and more, that goes along with theory of relativity, he found out it's just time is right wherever you're at, but it moves differently other places based on, velocity, acceleration, gravity, things like that. So, and everybody's right.
Yeah.
Even we have clocks, atomic clocks or whatever, that work in Colorado, and they're different than the ones in England. And they're both correct, but they will have different times. We have to make up for these time, it's called time dilation. Mm-hmm. For example, what people call the Big Bang or the singularity, essentially could really only be, if we were standing at singularity, it could be only day 6. But to us, it looks like it could have been 13.8 billion years. But in the beginning of time, if we were there at the beginning of creation, because time works so differently in space.
See, I'm confused because who to say that the time that we run on a 24-hour schedule is the right way to...
Only the way we measure it, and that's actually a good point. So right now we know it works like, I think it's like 23 hours, 56 minutes, and we do 24 hours just to kind of round it off to make it easier for us. And then we make up for leap years, leap days and stuff. But it's really like 23-hour, 56-minute like day.
Yeah.
And that's how we measure that. Now, I like what you're saying. So like, if somebody came in here with alien technology, we figure out gravity technology, and we shoot gravity up, we could start messing with time. What looks like 24 hours could be 10 minutes, could be 100 years, could be 1,000 years,
and that would
based
change
on how you're
we
using
age?
the science. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would slow us down. So you are always like, we will always experience what we experience. If we were sitting here going light speed, in 9 years, we would be 9 years older. It's how we are perceived to the people wherever we go, or who we're on Earth, is where
That's
the
amazing.
difference will be, because our time has become relative to each other and different.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
It's wild, but it's all science, and you look it up. This is all true stuff.
Yeah.
This is why Albert Einstein was taken as such a genius, because he figured out time is not the same. That's why we know time is a physical dimension. That's when we realized that's basically said that's the fourth dimension. It's like licorice. That's why I said that you can bend it, warp it, whatever, and the beginning and the end are solid. Linear time, I was saying is before this even, is like it's just not real. We look as the future hasn't happened yet. The future is as certain as the past. The future has happened just like the past has happened, just like the present has happened. We are experiencing it in the present moment, but the past, the present, the future simultaneously have happened as far as time goes.
So do you think like the government looks at scientists as threats?
I think two ways. I think they look at certain scientists, like if we were scientists, they look at us as threats because we're not going to help them.
Yeah.
But they also look at scientists as like, if you work for us. So think about this, the atomic bomb. Governments couldn't have this if they didn't have scientists.
Mhm.
So they see scientists as assets. So I'm sure every nation has scientists working on anti-gravity technology or gravity
I'm sure,
technology.
Or like freelancing
Yes,
scientists.
and they're
or,
paying them, right. But then anybody who's going to come up with something that might be against their agenda, this is where political agendas come into play. If anything goes against this plan of that one world government I'm talking about, they will now be a threat. It's based on, are you in or are you out? If you're in, you're our friend, we'll pay you. Are you out, you're a threat kind of deal. I
So-
believe is how it would be.
Yeah.
In a percentage, what would you say the number of UFO sightings in the United States are actual, true alien,
Activity,
unidentified,
like unidentified
or
vehicles and
government,
other
or government?
Ooh, so that's hard. So again, that's a really great question.
Percentage.
It's so hard for me to even tell. I do believe it has been happening. I really believe there's alien activity or spirit activity going on from the higher dimensions. But I also wouldn't put it past, like, for example, let's just be honest. If we were all leaders of some political agenda, which I'm glad we're not, we're right in our mind, but like some people want power. They get power hungry. And if I was a leader of a nation and I was power hungry,
Like
This stuff-
Space Force.
yes, kind of, yeah. So it might be to my advantage to start tapping into this myself, and maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But maybe it's not a bad idea for me to make my own UFO kind of looking thing. So now they believe in the UFOs. People have seen it enough. They've been abducted enough. You know, these things happen where it's like, well, can we stage them? Almost like there's the joke that Hollywood and the government are probably closer friends than we know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to believe that we used to trade humans, because I used to look at the missing numbers of missing people
Yeah.
in the United States. And if you really look from like the time of Roswell to now, the numbers have quadrupled. But our technology at the same time has quadrupled. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you're seeing change in technology after Roswell at a rate that human knowledge didn't. We weren't going that fast.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a
We
good-
should not go.
good
Our
acknowledgement.
grandparents should not have seen or my great grandmother, 1904 or 1901, she was born. She saw the first car.
Right,
You
she
know,
saw a lot.
she saw everything. But how does one person in one lifetime see that amount of technology from no line to landline?
Yeah,
to,
I've heard people
to
actually
cell
point that
phone,
out.
To
Yeah.
my grandmother did Skype before she was 104 years old when she died. You know,
Right.
Skyped.
I've heard of elderly people saying this before, saying like I grew up as a little kid where I had to walk outside to go into an outhouse to go to the bathroom, and the blizzards were awful in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
To where now when we got indoor plumbing, we thought that was the future.
Yeah.
And now now computers happen. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And now you put it in your pocket already.
Yeah.
And like it's happening so fast, and I've heard many elderly people because I love talking to them. They have so many good stories, and I love history.
Oh,
like,
one of
it
our
helps put
one of my
together.
things I want to do is actually go into nursing homes and get great
Yeah.
stories.
Oh
from some of
yeah,
these veterans.
they have so much
and-
experience on life and things
Oh,
they've seen and
it's
experienced,
insane.
and like we're talking about now,
100%.
like these people have seen technology, like even the elderly have to admit, like whether we like technology or not, it is increasing so fast, almost like we can't, like Elon Musk talks about,
Yeah.
like that we probably
Yeah.
can't keep up in it,
Yeah.
and it probably has a lot to do with the end times, I'm sure.
And I think a
I'm
lot
sure
of it has
technology
to
has
do
a lot
with
to do.
taking it from
Yeah.
alien life. You know, what I mean, different life forms and
They have
different
higher
things that
knowledge.
we've taken.
A lot of our science might have come from that. That's
Yeah.
why, I mean, you talk to Bob Lazar and those guys, they say that they were communicating probably with other beings. Some people, I mean, you go down certain rabbit holes, they say that governments, which I believe that there's a spirit being ruling actually over every nation. So again, I think everything manifests in the physical reality. Presidents of nations, prime ministers and stuff are put there by a spirit being, and they're puppets even, and a lot of times
That's
they
what
don't
I
even
think,
know
like
it.
Illuminati. Like I feel like it's almost like in Egyptian times you had the ones that spoke with the gods, and that's kind of like
Still
I feel like
happens.
the high power ranking people are the ones that
Yep.
Trump goes to or whoever
So,
or
Yeah, have you
even
guys
deeper.
have you guys ever heard of the Tower of Babel? I'm sure you've heard of this story where
Yeah.
people build a
I've
tower
heard
to
of
the
it,
gods,
yeah.
but there's other gods, and what happened there was Yahweh said, I will kind of disperse you guys, and now you spirits will rule over the humans. Don't want me to be their ruler. They hate God
Do
now.
me a favor, Brett. Can you bring up the Temple Rock UFO?
But yeah,
Yeah.
basically, I think I was going with that. Basically,
Sorry about that. I
no,
wanted to cover this.
it's all good. But basically, these spirit beings were cast over all the other humans, and basically they run everything behind the scenes. Everything in the physical world, the lower world, is manifested from the higher. So there's only one nation that has God in charge, and the rest are run by spirit beings, I believe.
No,
And that's what's happening. So that's why all these technologies from governments, and when Germany had the Nazis and Hitler, they were most likely tapping into the spirit that ran Germany, and saying, "This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to run it. You guys are going to do this."
You can pass it.
Oh, here's the.
So I don't know if you've ever
I've
seen this, but this is the video that
right over
changes my
Jerusalem.
life. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Jerusalem's the capital of the world
So-
in the end times.
So this is the Temple Rock. Like this is a very
I actually saw this.
religious, and thousands of people saw this.
This is a hotbed. So Jerusalem. That's why the Middle East. You see all these wars and stuff.
Now if you watch, this will
Spiritual
flash
hotbed.
like it almost gives an energy out, and zooms off. There's
That's
actually a couple.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, here's the original. This is where they see it.
Is this another angle of the same thing?
This is further away. They actually see it drop here. Nothing we have drops like that.
Right.
It is able to control its perfect.
It's crazy.
Took
The
some
ball just,
flashing.
and it just takes up straight.
This is what changed my life, seeing this. Now, it was on the news. I don't understand why you don't hear about it, though. That's what I'm saying. Like it.
Well, it doesn't serve the agenda. Like I'm saying, like that's
Exactly,
probably that
you're
was
right.
probably
Yeah,
a real
it's-
that was probably a real encounter, and that would be more of a threat.
Filmed by thousands of people, yeah, and I'm surprised it hasn't like lost its way off of YouTube.
And we know, yeah, that's like another Roswell way. We know there's many
But-
things where many people.
So my
say
question is, I mean, this makes me believe that things came to these religious places in ancient times.
Yes. Yeah, that's
So-
what these other gods I'm talking about. That's where the many gods things, like coming down to the mountains, those kind of things really happen.
Yeah. So I'm imagining that like thousands of years ago when that was built, you know, I mean, the people saw something there like that made them. This thing knew to come back to that same spot. You know what I mean? It's just creepy. It's creepy.
Yeah, it's definitely the higher beings coming down, whether you call them the gods or the aliens or whatever you want to call them. But
They would call it a flying chariot.
yeah, you've heard of the chariots of the gods, and that's
Yeah,
like a
flying.
very similar
It
concept.
sounds like a spaceship to me.
Yep, if you go back to Genesis, that's pretty much like the same thing it talks about. Is like it even says Elijah was taken in a chariot of fire. Ezekiel saw a wheel within a wheel, and like these things. But yeah, I always tell people, what do you think if like an angel or an alien come down? What would it look like? Like we all agree there's hyper.
I think it would look like us. It would try to represent us.
Right.
Or look
How
like
would its entrance look? Like I don't think they just like maybe they do. Maybe they just appear and just appear.
I don't think.
But I
we'd
think it's
see
something
it.
like wild.
Yeah, I don't think we'd see the entrance.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on. I don't know how. Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
there's
know what
been.
it looked like.
Have you ever seen some of these crazy videos from like CCTVs where it's like people driving on a highway, there's a four-way, and then all of a sudden this
Right.
weird thing happens and a person comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh
Or
yeah.
there's some car accident videos where like this car literally
Yeah.
like, showed up in the middle.
Some people call them
of-
angel encounters and stuff, where like you're gonna get smashed
Like,
by a
it
car, and all
came
of a sudden
from-
this being comes through.
Well, this is like it was in another time, like
Oh,
almost
they
like
are.
Back to
Yeah.
the Future when they would drop in on the
And
car.
just- And that's essentially how I think maybe it really could be. Maybe that's how it really works. But they can definitely, like you're saying, they can drop into time. They're living in they're living in other dimensions, higher. We're down here. They're living in higher dimensions. That they have more access and reality there. They're way more aware of how I believe our universe works than we are. So they most likely this is how they come down and leave, and it's been happening since the beginning of time. Like I said, Genesis 6. That's a 6th chapter of the whole Bible, and it already starts out with these creatures came down, and you go into Genesis 11. It's like then they are split up into the god, like in Deuteronomy talked about like the gods were then in charge, and they dip down, they come back up, and all these wonders happen. And if I saw like I think they're spirit gods, the lesser gods, and if I saw most people, if they see this thing come down, I would know the difference. But if you guys saw a being come down and do something pretty miraculous scientifically that we don't know, you guys are 100%, again, you're going to 100% believe them. That was real. You know that was real. And now they're going to convince you to do what they want, and you're going to be like, oh, this is legit. I discern between the spirits, the good ones or the bad ones. I believe they both encounter our real world. But I do believe they dip down and do stuff like this. And when you see it, you can't deny it. People that have seen these things, like I saw a streak of light, whether it's a UFO or not, like it's very possible it was, and I believe it would be happening regularly. And now it's happening more frequently, like you kind of point out. It's actually ramped up now.
Well, like now the Navy just put that one out. Have you seen that?
Yeah, Tom DeLonge
Did
has
you
been
see the
saying
one
that
in
for a couple of years.
Puerto Rico? They had the one. It was a ball that traveled over Puerto Rico and then finally went into the ocean. And they tracked it coming up, out, and back in, coming up.
Definitely weird things happening. It's hard to explain, but it seems like the interesting thing to me now is that governments. This is why I'm concerned based on what I know the end looks like. But governments are receiving it. And before people like that would talk about this stuff. It was fringe. It was nonsense. And now you have things like that came out like a couple weeks ago. It said like we have crafts from another world, otherworldly vehicles. I think is how they described it. And the United States is worried like did China and Russia make these? And I'm like I don't think so, guys.
Well, it's like
I don't think this is them.
the Nazis. I still think Kecksburg. Is that what it is?
There's the Kecksburg. Yeah, Kecksburg.
I
That's
think
like the Pennsylvania.
The Nazi bell. I think that really was the Nazi bell.
it would make sense if they were tapping into all that stuff like the Foo
I think
Fighters you hear
Adolf.
about.
I think
from the
Hitler was
40s.
in that bell.
There's a lot of wild stuff going on.
Yeah, I think.
A lot of
I
wild
think
stuff.
this
There's
is the
that
one in
video
Puerto
where
Rico.
It couldn't even capture it.
Now this is Puerto Rico. This is.
Oh, this is the more recent one.
Yeah, this is. I believe this is an American fighter.
And it can't even capture it. That's the other thing too. This is why I tell people like this
Well,
is not physical dimensions that we're dealing with because they move at speed lights and like you talked about earlier, I think where it went up and shot out like an L. They're flying at speeds that physics say physical beings can't fly at. So they might be hyperdimensional beings. And again, I think I think the world has a lot to do with our mindset and how things are, and that's where reality is really derived from. That's why it's careful to what you focus your mind on and stuff. But I believe look at this craft right here flying out like they can't even get a spot on it. If that was an airplane or aircraft, a government fighter should be able to lock in, and there's no locking in on it.
No.
And
They're
that's
just
because the moves are erratic and they're so fast. And see how I just did like that U-dip right there?
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be physically possible without think about this. If we go out in our cars right now and we took a turn at 80 miles an hour, we're gonna go skidding off. But these crafts are taking turns at 80 miles an hour. Think of it, and no difference.
Not breaking their neck.
Not breaking their neck, and it's just perfect. Like they made a perfect turn at like 4,000 miles per hour.
So after
and it's like physical thing couldn't do
after
that.
it passes through here, I'm pretty sure you see like the airport, and then it literally goes into the ocean. And they can see it come up out of the ocean and back under, and then they lose it. But this was followed. This was,
dipped out there.
I think that was maybe clouds, yeah.
Yeah,
But here it becomes all ocean right here, and you'll start.
Do you
to
know
see
when
it.
this was actually sighted?
Puerto Rico, right
In
off.
it's in 2013.
Pretty sure it's right off of San Juan and
April
like
2013.
the,
So this is only 7
the
years ago.
airport. It made its way all the here. This is where they zoom in.
Wow.
They're gonna see it start to hit the water, but you don't see splashing like.
Well, again, because it's
Watch.
probably not a physical thing, so
It's
if it
going-
didn't want
it's
to,
underwater.
Yeah, it's like almost going
It's
right through the
underwater.
water.
It's like the water just went
It's
around
underwater,
it, you know.
and it's showing itself.
again, if
you
it's
would
not- if
see
it's more-
major splashing
If it was a physical craft.
if it was
right.
a physical craft. So it has. I mean, I think it has the ability to show itself or not. I think
There it is, and
chooses.
it drops in. Oh yeah, they can probably hide if they want
yeah,
to.
there
There
you
it
saw
goes.
it.
It kind of disappears. And now it's like trying to find it. Like where did it go?
But
That's
that
bizarre.
that proves right there, Christopher Columbus' diaries, where they saw an orange orbing light come out of the ocean and
Right, the
lift
things that he
off into the
describes.
sky. Like,
Yeah. I've seen some
if
weird
you really
stuff.
look, like, I mean, have you experienced the orange balls around here? Vlad?
I've seen so when I talk about that color flare, it happened so fast and it streaked across the sky, but it was almost like rainbow red and orange. So it was like a rainbow with a flare behind it, and it just kind of shot. And then me and we were naive high school kids at the time, but we thought me, my brother, and my buddy were gonna go find out where this thing crashed. Which I mean, if it was even like that, it was probably like 500 miles away at the closest. But we were like, what was that? And we went. Jason obviously didn't find anything, but we all kind of, and that was in 2005, I think. So like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I
I
remember
feel
that
like
happening.
around that time, maybe. See, I feel like more it was maybe 2002. There was an event where I was at my house. I was on my Hewlett Packard, and my whole house did a bunny hop. We were in a double wide,
Oh wow.
and I had heard that everyone said that an asteroid struck in Milton Golf Course.
Your
Nothing
house
I
did a
remember this.
bunny
Nothing
hop.
hit.
My brother was playing
Nothing
baseball
hit in
or
Pennsylvania.
Your house did an ollie.
But it did. It felt like my whole house and everything. It did a bunny hop. Just
That's insane.
I remember
back
this.
down. And then actually, that was when the
It would've been
blast happened.
2002.
It shook everything.
They said it hit Canada then or something like that too, didn't they?
Yeah,
say?
it went pretty far, but I mean that was pretty crazy.
I remember
to
I saw
experience,
that. I saw that thing also was like a rainbow streak, very similar. I saw that in the sky. My brother was playing baseball. It was actually over here in Sunbury by the YMCA.
Yeah.
That's where I was at when that happened. I remember that coming out in the news. And my parents were like, "Oh, I guess an asteroid hit Canada or something like that."
Yeah.
I remember being like, "That's kind of bizarre." But I mean, have you guys? And now where I saw that streak of light was actually out going 147 towards Herndon. So I was going from Sunbury to Herndon on 147,
Ooh,
out
creepy
towards Penn's
place.
Tavern.
Listen, I used to work at Penn's Tavern, and we're gonna have to
It's
do
the oldest
another
building
one.
in the county, and
We're gonna have to
supposedly
do
haunted.
another show. It is haunted. That's why we're gonna have to do
I've heard
another
from a
show
lot of
on
people
that
some weird
because
stories.
I worked there as a chef, and I came in bro, my first night, I hung up my coat with my keys in it, got to work. I wasn't even there to have a job. I was just there to help.
Right.
And this ghost literally took my keys and put it in the corner of the restaurant where she was murdered.
I've heard weird stuff happen.
Yeah, we'll have
I've heard
to
of
talk
Native
about that on
Americans,
it was-
hearing Native Americans and stuff.
It was
that
a
I've
negative.
heard.
They actually, when I worked there, the historical society came
Yeah.
and they dug up her remains in the basement. She was an Indian woman that these fur traders took a boat and went over to the island of Q,
Yep.
stole an Indian girl.
Did they lock her up there alive or something?
They raped her multiple times, beat her, kept her in the basement, and then finally murdered her.
That's
awful.
Yeah, and that's who Sarah we would call her. But bro, she would swing pots. And,
I knew people that worked there as managers and said the same kind of thing about Penn's Tavern and how you could hear things at night and some people wouldn't even want to go. I don't. It might have been to, like near the basement or something.
The basement. Listen, I have to say this because me and the owner's son, Chris, actually, we would go there in the morning. We would go down the basement, and this is probably the freakiest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. So there's like a back room where like it was much bigger. It was the main building's like basement, and then there was another little room we were in where there's a cold table, like, or what do you call it, a walk-in cooler.
Yep.
So we have these big bus tubs, and we're grabbing food, and there's a light on in the back room where she was buried, and then there's a light in the hallway in the room where we are. And we come out, and I kick the door shut, and I look up, and all of a sudden the light in the back room just shuts off. Pitch black. That room has gone pitch black.
Wow.
I look at Chris, and the light above us, off. Pitch black. We're both standing in a basement haunted by a woman who was murdered in the pitch black as each light shut off on us. So we just dropped everything in our hands and ran out of this building. And it was the most creepiest experience I've ever had in my life. Like,
I've never had any paranormal
it was like a horror film, like like
That'd
each
be
light
freaky.
going off down the
one
hallway.
at a time, kind of.
Oh my! It was like some. I thought I was.
Like you
gonna
thought
be
you were in a horror
murdered.
film. Like this is how it ends. This is how it all ends.
I
Penn
was scared
Tavern.
to death. Yeah, and
Yeah, I've heard a
and
lot of wild stuff like that. And
things
I get
would pop off the
Here-
cooking.
that's a
you know.
that's a nice little segue into my. So here's the thing I believe that like you just explained ghosts, and I don't think that's unrelated to aliens. I think again, ghosts could be considered in this alien form, and aliens and ghosts are same paranormal. There are paranormal activity happening. One's happening in the sky. One's happening right around us. But I think it is very similar things. Usually, obviously, the ones in the sky have some kind of craft along with them. Where ghosts and stuff, it's just these people in clothes or whatever they are, and they're near you. I think that's the main difference. But I think your ghost story is not far off from the alien topic.
Well, that's good then, because we actually have a ghost here named Mike who. I mean, he died in the building, committed suicide.
Yeah, Mike, if you'd like to come on the
Yeah,
show.
Yeah, we actually, I mean, that's a great idea. We should actually get like a Pennsylvania Paranormal up in here to sit down with us.
Oh,
and
I'm
they
sure
could do
talk
a
to you
thing
guys.
in here with us. You know what I mean? I don't know how you are on that.
Yeah,
but
I
that'd be
steer
cool
clear of the dark spirit. It gets pretty wild with
Yeah,
me.
I
I
don't-
usually steer clear. Like I've been up to Gettysburg, and I'll usually drop off just because I believe all that stuff's real. And I've heard of people having spirits attach them and follow them home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. I mean, you just got to do
Not
a
a
certain
fan.
blessing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta do a
I'm gonna
blessing
sit
and
that one
stuff.
out, but I'll listen to the podcast.
No
That's
thanks.
funny. Well, I know you're on a time
Yeah.
limit tonight, so I mean, I know we have tons more to talk about,
Sure.
and we'll probably get you on again.
Absolutely, I'd love to come
covering-
back.
It was
Covering
awesome
another
talking to
show,
you.
but
Great
yeah.
talking to you guys.
Great
yeah, we
time.
appreciate you coming
Yeah,
in
thanks
in
again,
black
guys.
and white.
Yeah, we'll talk
And,
again more about more
If
stuff.
you want, where can the people find you if they want to learn more about? I mean,
Yeah, sure. So you can contact me. So I have a couple things. That's a good point. So I'm essentially on Attinger Meditations or Sparking the Soul Meditations are my 2 pages. You can find me out. I also have some YouTube videos of meditations and stuff. But I also will be posting, if you go to Trimmed and Burning is my main page where I talk about God, scripture, science, and how it all works. So if you go to Trimmed and Burning, you can actually find me talking about how free will and fate are not opposing. They coexist. We have free will, but we also have a fate, and they coexist. Kind of like what I talk about time there. How I talk about life could be compared to if you see it through a video game lens. It's on my Trimmed and Burning page. I talk about how we're little, mini gods we want to create just like a universe. That's what video games are, mini universes.
Yeah.
So, but you can find me on Trimmed and Burning. Like I said, I do Attinger Meditations. I also do Sparking the Soul Meditations. You can check my stuff out there. But I always love talking about this stuff and just getting people's eyes open and to think differently about. They may have heard some of the things I'm talking about, but in a very different way than I'm putting it out there based on just the math and science I've learned and prayed about and learned over the years. So thanks again for having me. I'll definitely be back again for more.
Thank you,
guys.
man. We really appreciate it. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if
you're
you guys didn't hear all that, we will have it on the website, www.filmbrokers.com. There will be a tab that's for podcasts. The actual podcast will be on YouTube, but you'll be able to go on the podcast link on the website and be able to get more information about Eric and some of the stuff he does. So, thanks for having us. Tune in again in Black and White.
Check it out.
What's going on, Brett?
Not much, man. Chilling.
What do you got going on tonight?
Nothing much, dude. Gotta do the dishes, actually.
The dishes.
Take the trash out, too. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Don't forget that.